Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SFF Poetry Reading. I'm going to be your moderator today. My name is Wendy Van Camp, and I am basically a sci-fi and astro poet, mainly. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our organization. All the poets here in the panel are members of the SFPA, which is the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association. This is a national organization of speculative poetry poets. Sorry, a little nervous, I guess. Our URL is sfpoetry.org. If you are a science fiction poet, I do urge you to come and join our organization. We have several magazines that you can submit to, and they do pay the poets for their poetry. We also host several awards. There's the Riesling Award, which is for individual poems. And then there's the Elgin Award, which is for best speculative poetry book of the year. And they actually do two Elgins, one for long form poetry and one for short form poetry. And I think, I'm sorry. There's one for a poetry collection, and the other one is for a poetry chapbook. And but with the Riesling, it's also paired up with an award called the Dwarf Stars, which is for haiku style or very short poetry. So we don't exclude those of us that write very short poems. The panelists that we have today have all been members in good standing. They're all excellent poets, and I know you're going to enjoy hearing them. What I'm going to do is introduce each one, or at least indicate which one will read first. They'll introduce themselves, and then they will read for about 7 or 8 minutes. And then at the end, we'll go ahead and we'll basically give you our links and things of that nature. So without further ado, Akua, could you go ahead and go first? Hopefully I didn't make you nervous.
You did. I'm Akua Lezli Hope, creator and wisdom seeker, speaking to you from the ancestral lands of the Onondaga, also known as the Seneca Keepers of the Western Door, in the area currently called the Southern Finger Lakes region of New York State, which is wine and glass country. I give thanks to those who have gone before for my being and continuance. A bit about me: I'm a multi-award-winning poet. I wrote my first speculative poetry in the 6th grade, and I've been in print every year since 1974, perhaps before you were born. Let me tell you, I fell in love with dragons when I was, we've already gone through the past. I fell in love with dragons when I first read Anne McCaffrey's book, Pern. And, it's a series of books. And then my love for dragons lapsed. And then I fell in love with them again when there was Dragonheart, and friends had children, and a friend who had a kid said, you need to check out How to Tame Your Dragon. And then most recently, my dragon love has been stoked by seeing Drogon and his siblings on the television. This is Dragon, and it was published in Fairy Magazine, which is now called Enchanted Living. Dragon. Those portraits of us as winged alligators are unseemly. I don't chomp raw meat. I'm flexible, articulate, prescient. My iridescent armor is fish scale soft. Should you touch me, I will shimmer my plates. My eyes are large and slanted, my nose equine and feline with flared, delicate nostrils. Roman arches that relish blooms of peonies as well as milkweed savor the intoxication of apple blossom and fruiting spires of catalpa. My fire, not unlike your own, who can breathe hot or blow cold, which we do, to tease lace filigrees from ice, moisture sculptures to adorn winter before we fly south. Unless heart-bound by love for some cause we think just, or enamored by a soft flesh child we cannot touch, only covet or guard. When your oldest friends are trees and you carry seeds of a coupling made before the river turned east, you cherish any connection. After you've buried your bolder eggs apart, having inscribed each with runes of hope and instruction. Yes, we're born large and literate. They're left in quiescent peril to awaken when and where the earth heaves again and bleeds her molten recreation. Dragon. So it looks like we're going to go to Mars, right? Have you all been following that news? Here's what I've got to say about it. They won't talk to us. Martians move as one and many under ice shielded sun. They contemplate tides and run. Their thoughts reach beyond their sphere and cross the void, take shape in air. We dream of them evanescent as fairies and dragons, ether shaped things, as moonlit, sun echoed, radiant shimmerings. Another something disturbing Earth's breath. Their psychic landings and smokelings coalesce. They converse with whales and dolphins, beings of joy and wisdom who hide their sentience because we vilify difference, because we are so cruel when curious. Martians will not speak to us, preferring dull, though loving manatees. They won't talk to us. I've been feeling mermaids of late, and this is Mermaid Discusses Dissolution. I watched your movies for clues when ashore collecting, shining stars as breadcrumbs to follow through and out denial's woods. In bits, you tell a truth. The incredible shrinking man becomes one with everything, his diminution and expansion ascending to the cosmic. Powder burst in light, fraught and heartful, flowering grace of radiant waves transmuted to a higher vibration. Closest to me, a lull in the seas, sea god dissolves into feeling, suffusing a now sensate ocean with his yearning and desire. Do not recast my ending, though this communique may be garbled, for love and lack, daring and failure, I became another infinitude, foam. No tears, please, for my evolution. Mermaid discusses dissolution. And the poem's about what the original ending of the mermaid was. And here's my last, another mermaid poem, as Yemaya. Yemaya came to the New World from Africa, and she's taken a couple of other names, Yemaya, Yemoya. She's the patron saint of oceans, and she's depicted as a queenly mermaid, as Yemaya. When I was paralyzed My two legs felt as one, sparking something that began below my waist, disconnected from my will. They floated on their own in a sea of perception, embraced everywhere, sensate and sinuous. I swam up from brokenness into dream, darting in 3 dimensions, as unafraid of up as down, as skillful with left as right. My great lungs fill with air, my long arms strengthen with each sure stroke as I plunge toward my sister, pink and leather, pink and black, leatherback, who does not blink as we match motions and dance. And all around me, light from water crossing foremothers who did not fly but swam and sang across hidden valleys and buried mountains as humpbacks do, all around the globe at once in a chorus of continuance, history sharing, like right whales who survived their Holocaust, carried memories for hundreds of years, outlived generations of miscreants and murderers, unforgotten wounds, now tattoos, and testament to what endures. And they told me, though land forsakes, consigns me to the chair, wheels me in the corner, beyond the edge, water buoys and welcomes, and her wide board crinolined flippers gleam in dusk, sparkle at dawn, flare at midday, beckon remembrance as she sirens, return as Yemaya. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you, Akua. That was beautiful. Thank you. Our next poet will be Deborah. If you could mic yourself, please. And Akua, if you could mic yourself. Thank you all.
Hi, I'm Deborah P. Kolodji, and I've been a poet my whole life, pretty much. I've always had an interest in speculative fiction. Was a big Star Trek fan when I was a teenager, and just loved to read, the classics. Dune. I fell in love with Dune, and I started writing science fiction poetry. I wrote a lot of when I was a teenager. I had stuff published in Star Trek fanzines, the Ode to the Enterprise and all sorts of things like that. And then I eventually just started writing poetry in general. For 5 years, I was the president of Science Fiction Poetry Association. And in the last 15 years or more, my focus has really been on short forms, particularly haiku. I write a lot of mainstream haiku, and I also write science fiction haiku and fantasy haiku. And I'm going to just start by reading a haiku sequence that was published in Rattle, that the third haiku in it was a Dwarf Stars Award winner. It's called Basho, after Cinderella. 1. A glass slipper in the middle of the road. Spring rain. 2. Thistles in bloom. Village gossip after the ball. 3. Pumpkin vine. A mouse remembers how to neigh. 4. Fairy dust snow. Perfectly sized boots for her bare feet. And now I'm just going to read a lot, since haiku has been my focus. I'm going to read a series of just independent science fiction haiku. I'm going to try to pause between each one so that it's clear where one starts and one doesn't. I'll try to do the best I can with that. Tracks across Mars. no flags. Stormy side of Mars, robot breakup. Lost in step relatives, dwarf galaxy. Spaceship window, the void between your world and mine. Orgate, I never calculated being alone. One moon sky, an ET can't sleep, counts humans. Martian lake, under the South Pole, what we hide. 10 years in space, the dish garden in my cabin. Part backlog for the weather generator, planet of blizzards. No coat this December, winter time travel. The lightest I've been, figure skating on Europa. The leak in Noah's Ark, time travel bucket list. A constant storm between us, Jupiter's red spot. CT scan, journey to Mars. Final descent to the new planet, maroon sky. Time travel for dummies, banned book list. Dancing with the stars, moonlets of Neptune. And finally, my hair loss, Saturn losing its rings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was really wonderful, Deborah. Anyway, our next poet is Kimberly. And go ahead and introduce yourself, Kimberly. And Deborah, please make sure you mute yourself. Thank you, guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kimberly Nugent, and like Deborah and Wendy, I work in short form. It's probably because my day job, I am a gaming editor for tabletop role-playing games, so I really like being concise and getting the language down to its bare minimum. So the first poem I'd like to read for you is actually the first science fiction poetry I had published. I stepped away from poetry for many years and came back to it about 3 years ago. So this is a series of haiku, and I think you'll like it. 1. Far side of the moon, station bathed in still sunlight. Last stop before Mars. 2. Acceleration, crew and captain pinned to seats. Pilots into void. 3. Peaceful glide broken, a collision with space junk, landing gear damaged. 4. Turbulence rattling, Mars's thick dust in the air, parts strewn on the field. And 5. Gasping for air, flashes of rescuers near, pilots into the void. And I have a few more, 3 more haiku, sci-fi haiku I would like to read for you. Collider unchecked, gravitational wave distortion, black hole collision. I have 2 sort of love sci-fi haiku. A scaly surround, flame embraced, clutched on stone ledge, mother's ample love. And self mirrored in self, hand in hand, trading glances, a perfect copy. This next one is a tanka, which is a little different than a haiku. Haze, low and rusty. Charred trees, charred cars, charred roads, yet chimneys remain. The terrestrial tragedy, a clone on Kepler. My next poem is called A Renew to Myself. Doing rounds, quiet but my metallic footsteps on the colony ship. Frozen faces, I speak to them. Touchscreen checklist, a fingerprint to complete. Today is done. Sugar, browning, toasty. A blanket fuzzy and soft. The mug warms my hands. An alarm sounds. Cryo needs repair. Don't move. Our friends have told me they wish to speak. The next poem is called Repairing. On the long line, outside the ship, the lock releases silently. I remove the broken panel, slide the new one in. A textbook mission. Until the meteor nicks my air tank, leaking. Lungs fill slowly, my breath slows. Panic fades to peace. But then pain in my arm. A mask hugs my face, pumping fresh air in. Being. And then, finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about this one because it's not like the rest of my poems. There's a little bit of, I guess, more meter and rhyme in it, and I actually wrote it about my grandmother's house. So it's a little personal to me, and it's, I would call it more of a supernatural poem. It's called The Cold Spot. There is always a cold spot in a house that the dog growls at night. One that smells like candy when you're young. One that smells like your dead grandmother's perfume. It soothes your senses, but it never feels right. Because there is always a cold spot in an old house that the dog growls at in the night. Thank you.
Wow, that was really wonderful, Kimberly. Our next poet is going to be Karina. Go ahead and mic yourself, please. And Kimberly, if you could mic yourself. And there we go.
Hello, my name's Karina Bissett. I write poetry and dark fiction. I tend to stay on the dark side. I started writing under Karina Bissett in 2013 after I changed my name, Domestic Violence. And I've been published in many different places. Poetry is one of my true loves, but I do write a lot of short fiction as well. The first piece I was going to read for you today is called Swimming with the Shark Boys. It was one of the first poems I wrote, and it received an honorable mention from Ellen Datlow in Best Horror of the Year. Swimming with the Shark Boys. Oh, it was originally published in Mythic Delirium. I was warned to be wary in water, especially when swimming with the sharks. But those were the boys I always liked best, with their slick-back scalps, sharp smiles, and eyes like bottomless pits. I recognized them by their restlessness, the subtle gleam as they cut through the crowd, the shimmer of deadly beauty attracts admirers, seeking the sharp taste of fear. I watched mermaids flirt through a mirror's lens as they pout full lips and flaunt dangerous curves. Scales glitter in a practiced seduction as they comb hair perfect for binding men. The shark boys just laughed, teeth bared. The sirens orchestrate a counterpoint, chaos conjured from the deep, dark places. They measure out the notes of seduction, drowning the protests of the waves, relentlessly breaking upon the rocks, a requiem for the dead. My Selkie sisters and I know better than to venture out of reach of safe shores. We cinch our sealskins tight around our waists, watching for the warning signs, the scent of blood on the waves. But every time one of the shark boys turns, gliding out of the gloom with graceful ease, I can't help but wonder how it would feel to shed my skin, press flesh on flesh, smother in a crush of deadly kisses, falling into the abyss. Sorry, I saw notes on the side. I got distracted. The second poem I'm going to read for you, I'll put my glasses on, is The Sweet Sleep of Roses. I wrote this for Non-Binary Review. It was on a themed issue for We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and this one was nominated for the Pushcart. There are rats in the roses. I know this is true. I feed them feathers and pearls, and in return they keep us safe from the more dangerous pests, eager to blacken our bounty. I sugar the soil where the brambles bowed around the rambling castle, stains scoured, walls tumbled under the weight of words, Melodious, Pegasus, Digitalis. Oh, sweet sister, you should see what I've blinded by thorns, smell the sweet sin hidden, bound in a pentagram of petals, taste the devilish seeds buried deep inside the ripened fruit. I turn back time, the 13th hour, wound down counterclockwise, past rotting hearts and golden coins, poisonous passions and thorny crowns, until the paths were closed forever to anyone who wasn't you and me. And you will sleep safely forever in our moon-kissed tower, guarded by dragon teeth sharpened and wandering eyes plucked, planted among the twisting roots of blackberries ripened to rot. That was fun. I went through the entire book and pulled out words. I've got one last poem for you. I normally write, it takes me a long time to write poetry. This one came out in a mad rush. I was very angry about Arachne, the figure of Arachne in Dante's Inferno. And it was for a Non-Binary Review themed issue as well. And so there was a woodcut that was done by Gustave Doré, I believe, with Arachne. She's half woman, half spider. She's leaning back and the men are looking at her. Made me very angry. So here is this one. O mad Arachne, a folly in 3 acts. Act 1. Of course she's bent back, legs splayed open for inspection, pride punished, purgatory, reflected on a monster, flanked an infernal tapestry, color curled, secrets spun by sinners who dared to fly too close to the sun. Act 2. In her wisdom, the goddess punished the girl, a weaver, who needed a lesson, as all girls do. After all, maidens are meant to be seen, not heard. Hubris for humanity, despair hanging, suspended, judged, a tapestry of tragedy, wrought in twisted limbs, bruised breasts, plundered spoils of a war undeclared, unquestioned. Act 3. Talent? Never, the matron says. Wait. The time will come, an hourglass counting down, minutes slipped, regret shrouded, ghosted, shed, obscure, glory days remembered on cigarette breaks, red lipstick smeared, feathered lines, regret drowned, boxed wine. Remember, the matron says to the dumpster. Remember, she says to the stray dog bear, winged beast. Remember, she says to the spider who stares back, 8 eyes reflecting pride, shattered, a warped mirror. Inside the diner, a girl, so young, so beautiful, an artist, a peer, a student, a child. Listen, the matron says, stern, unyielding, an echo. Wait, the cycle resets. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. That was really wonderful. Well, I guess we come up to me. I'm the final poet to be reading. I'm not just keeping time and moderating the panel. My name is Wendy Van Camp. I am a poet, author, and an illustrator. I'm actually one of the artists in Artist Alley here at SFF Con. So please check out the Discord channel for the artists, and you will see my my offerings there if you are interested. My illustrations are of my Sci-Fi poetry. I am a published author. I do have one collection out. My book is called The Planets, a Sci-Fi poetry collection, and it was nominated for an Elgin Award this year in 2020. I have a well, we'll go on to that later, I guess. I'll get started. Like some authors that you know and poets, sometimes I am long-winded. I apologize. My first poem is going to be called He Is Your Brother. This was originally published in a magazine called Lit Up back in September of 2018. It's loosely based off of the Clone Wars. Here we go. I do not wear chains, but I am a slave. Born in factory. Oops. Sorry, guys. Well, anyway. Born in factory, fathered by science, trained to be a fighter in human wars. I am declared the ultimate soldier. Now, of course, my phone is going to do this in the middle of everything. Ah, my goodness. I'm going to start over. Excuse me. He Is Your Brother is the title. I do not wear chains, but I am a slave. Born in factory, fathered by science, trained to be a fighter in human wars. I am declared the ultimate soldier. My sergeant says, look right, then to the left. Each face is an exact copy of my own. We are the same height, same build, the same soul. Treat him well, for he is your brother. As my brothers die around me, I wonder if this is all there is. I do my duty, fighting in another war. We move in formation under the hot sun. Do I stand with my brothers and fight? Or do I fight alone for our freedom? My next poem is called Cassandra. It was also published in Lit Up back in 2018. And this one was inspired by, believe it or not, an ABBA song combined with ancient legends. In the morning, your ship will be sailing, prepared by your father to whisk you safe. Watch the silicon's silly understanding as the people flee the enemy in haste. Now that the last bloody day is dawning, you suffer your secrets within your heart, for none would listen to words of warning. O Cassandra, it is time to depart. Into the fair skies you rocket up, away from the death you have foreseen. In orbit, solar sails prepare to cup waves of photon energy by machine. Sorry, Cassandra, we did not believe. We only saw it as dreams you would weave. All right. My next poem was published this year, and it was in honor of the SpaceX launch that happened this summer. I call the poem From Pad 39A. It's a poem in 3 parts. And the first part is called Apollo. At dawn, the monolith rises with brave men to ascend the heavens. We will journey to the moon. The nation holds its collected breath as television cameras spy. At dawn, the monolith rises with brave men to ascend the heavens. On magnificent blossoms of fire, Kennedy's dream comes to life. We see our world with new eyes. At dawn, the monolith rises with brave men to ascend the heavens. We will journey to the moon. Part 2 is called Endeavor. Over and over the flying brick transports humans into orbit, landing home after her mission. When the Challenger explodes, we grow fearful of outer space. Over and over the flying brick transports humans into orbit. Astronauts float in the space station, performing great experiments the earthbound do not comprehend. Over and over the flying brick transports humans into orbit, landing home after her mission. Part 3, I call Dragon. The rising dragon is a javelin with precision pierces the sky, leaping forth from pad 39A. Despite masks and social distance, the nation relives Apollo mystique. The rising dragon is a javelin with precision pierces the sky. Former shuttle pilots rename SpaceX craft their Endeavor, bringing the past into the future. The rising dragon is a javelin with precision pierces the sky, leaping forth from pad 39A. And my final poems are going to be from my book, The Planets. They are sci-fi poems, which of course is science fiction themed haiku, and some of them could be considered as astropoetry because they describe planets in our solar system, more of a scientific kind of thing. There's about at least 108 poems in the book, and what I did is I just selected a couple from most of the chapters to kind of give you a little bit of a sampling. And before I go any further, excuse me, or my bad eyes here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and begin. Oh, and by the way, I do title my haiku poetry. I know it's not always a regular thing for poets to do, but it's just the way I write mine. So I hope you'll forgive me, but that's just the way I do it. My first poem is called Mercury. I circle the sun in spin orbit resonance, lonely messenger. The next one is called Venus Impact. Sulfuric air of Venus burns meteors of certain size. Small rocks need not apply. The next one I call Dysphoria. Life springs from the earth. Humans are as seeds on the wind, colonizing worlds. The next one is called Oceanus. We call our home Earth, part of our short-sighted hubris, on a world of water. The next one is called Mars. This elderly world, lost global magnetic field, can't hold its breath. The next one is called Canals. Mistaken translation, Italian Canelli creates hope of Martian life. The next one is called Jupiter's Rings. One bright main ring, the halo forms an inner torus, on edge glimmers gossamer dust. And we can't do Jupiter's rings without doing Saturn's rings. Rings spin their own path within the giant disk, mind the Cassini gap. The next one is Saturn's attraction. Love is magnetism, as sparks flash in my winds, metallic hydrogen dynamo. And the next one I call Titan, which is a moon of Saturn. Your deep canyons hold rivers of hydrocarbons where we plant our flag. The next one is ensembleless geysers. Hot geysers take aim at Saturn's magnetosphere, mingle and merge. The next is Uranus breath. In monotonous teal, methane hides soul of giant. Wild winds storm beneath. And then I have deep blue world. Methane not the reason, what secret lied beneath of Neptune's royal blue. And the final one from the book is called Planet Pluto. In the Kuiper belt, dwarves mingle with comets. Size doesn't matter. And let's see how we are on time. I might read just a few more. And we're at 10:41. Yes, I think I can read just a couple more. These next 4 sci-fi poems were published in Far Horizons back in March of 2016 originally. And they've actually been republished about 5 or 6 times. I think they're my most popular sci-fi poems that I've ever written. And they're all based about a faraway star that we know as Tabby Star. The first one is called KIC 8462852. 1,500 light years, human warp drive propels ship. Odd pulses promise life. The next one is called Dyson Swarm. Hold my place forever, lonely swarm of graphene sails, wireless energy transfer. The next one is called Dyson Ring. One by one we encircle stalactite self-replicating ring, star energy captured. And the final one of this set is called Abandoned Sphere. Lack of radiation, dad stalactites enclose alien star. We claim all salvage rights. And I believe that will be my last poem. Thank you all. I believe we have just a few minutes. And I don't know if we actually have time for questions. We're at 10:43. And so I'm told that we really have about 5 minutes left to this panel. And so what I think I'd like us to do is for us, each of us poets, to basically to reintroduce ourselves and tell everyone where they can find you on the internet, give links, that kind of thing. And I think, Akua, since you went first, why don't we have you go first again, if you could unmic yourself. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Akua Lezli Hope. I've got a new chapbook called Otherwears, which you can find on Amazon, and it's available as an ebook or as a little chapbook. And I started a series called Speculative Sundays. So way later today, if you've got some time, please come over to Speculative Sundays. It will be live on Facebook, or you can Zoom it. But to Zoom it, you need to go to the website. You can just appear on Speculative Poetry on Facebook to catch it. And tonight's reader is Andre Hoylett. I'm delighted to be at SIFCon. I hear this is the first one. It's been wonderful to participate. And so I look forward to this being the first of many more SIFCons, and I hope I get invited back. Thank you, Wendy, and everyone else for being here.
Thank you, Akua. I mean, your poetry is always so beautiful, and I'm always honored to be on any panel with you at all the various cons. Deborah, if you would like to go ahead and reintroduce yourself and let people know of your links.
Okay, thank you so much, Wendy. First of all, I'm so happy to be here with you this morning, and I really appreciate the invitation to read. I do have a book, but I can see it on the other side of the room, but I'd have to leave the camera to go get it. So you'll have to just imagine it. It's called Symphony of the Universe. It's really more, it's got some speculative haiku in it, but it's basically a wide range of my haiku and senryu on many themes. A lot of them are more mainstream. This book won a Distinguished Book Award, a Touchstone Distinguished Book Award from the Haiku Foundation, and also won an honorable mention in the Haiku Society of America Merit Awards. It was nominated for an Elgin, but they decided it wasn't speculative enough, even though the write-ups on the winning sites talked about that they liked my science and my mathematical poems. So go figure. But anyway, it's got a little bit of a flavor, but it's more mainstream. You can find me on Facebook. I do have a Twitter handle at Kolodji, but I don't always watch it, but I'm there sometimes. I'm also the California regional coordinator for the Haiku Society of America. So my contact information is on the Haiku Society of America website if you wanted to email me. If you had any questions about haiku, I've always loved to talk about haiku, love to talk about speculative poetry. So anyway, it's been a pleasure to be here with all of you other poets and with you, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming, Deborah. I mean, I've always admired your haiku since I write it myself. So it was really a pleasure to have you here. Kimberly, would you like to let people know where they can find you?
Yes. So first, I want to thank everyone for letting me do my first reading ever. So thank you for bearing with me. Yay! You can find me on Twitter at Blue Tea Editing. You can find my latest work usually in Sci-Fi Kuist or Starline. And I do have a Dwarf Star nominated poem in this past year's Dwarf Stars. Most of my professional work, though, you're going to find in the tabletop RPG categories. And you can find me at Red Scar Publishing. And we have 3 games coming out, Devil's Run, Kings of War, and Hellboy. So thank you very much, and I hope to be in more readings and have that poetry book published finally. So thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. You know, Kimberly was once my editor when I was first starting out as a poet, and she's always been an inspiration to me, and we're going to drag her kick and screaming out here to read for you people more often. Karina, please let the people know where they can find you.
Hi, I want to say thank you to everyone first. I really enjoyed it. And Kimberly, I'm going to have to look it up. I'm doing some RPG stuff for Green Ronin and Onyx Publishing. So that's fun. You can find me at karinabissette.com. I'm also very active on Facebook. My poems, there's links to my poems on my website, and I'm currently working on my first collection about monstrous women, which I hope to have finished by the end of January. So thank you, Wendy, for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure, Karina. It just was really wonderful to hear your poetry as well. And I guess I'll do my little outro here too. Again, my name is Wendy Van Camp. I'm an author and poet. My poetry collection is called The Planets, a Sci-Fi Coup poetry collection. And it was nominated for a Elgin Award this year in 2020. It is available on Amazon, you know, if you wouldn't mind checking it out that way. I also am a blogger. I have a blog called nowastedink.com. And it's a place for science fiction readers and writers. I interview up-and-coming sci-fi and fantasy authors. I have a top 10 list of writing articles that is actually very popular on the blog. We have guest posts. I write commentary, and it's been around for a lot of years. So I hope you'll consider checking out my blog. And I think that's it. We're at 10:50. Thank you all again for coming and making this a successful reading. And thank you out in the audience for coming to hear us. I hope we've piqued your interest about what speculative poetry is all about. Thank you.